How many of you kids wish you were grown up? Do you guys wish you were grown up like us? Like, then you wouldn't have to do what your mom says or what your dad says. You get to make up your own rules, right? Is that what you guys think? Is that what you think? Well, you know what? Even us adults have to follow rules. Did you guys know that?
No.
We do. We have to follow the law, and we have to follow God's law, most importantly. But do you guys ever play dress up? No. You never play dress up?
Yes.
You do? What kind of games do you play when you play dress up?
I play Castle and Cinderella a lot, but I don't really do it anymore.
What other kind of games do you guys play? You do? What do you play?
I play with games.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I used to do when I was little like you guys? There was me and my sister and my 2 girl cousins. And my aunt had all these fancy gowns that she'd worn to like proms and things in high school. So we would get in this big box and we would put on these dresses. But 2 of us had to be the wives and 2 of us had to be the husbands. Because you have to have a husband, right? So we would take turns, and do you know who our husbands were? You guys probably don't even know who these people are. But our husbands were Elvis Presley and Bobby Sherman. They were just the best. And we would just take turns doing these games. And other times we would do other stuff too. We'd climb trees and all kinds of stuff. But we really liked to play like we were adults. Do you like to play like you're an adult?
Kinda.
What do you play when you're an adult?
I don't play adult stuff.
Well, that's good, because you know what? Oh, okay. But you guys think it's so cool to be an adult, and it seems like it's going to be forever before you're an adult, right? Because how old are most of you? Like, you're 11? Is there anybody here older than 11?
8.
So it seems like forever till you're an adult, right? Yeah.
No.
Are you an adult now?
No.
But you know what? God really wants you guys to take time right now to just have fun being kids. Do you know what your job is right now? I know that you know what your job is because I've told you. What's your job? No, what's your job? Remember what I said? You go to what every day?
Church. School.
You guys, your job is to go to school and do what?
Play and work.
Learn. You're supposed to learn. But you can play too. Okay, well, that's what God wants you to do. He wants you to learn all that you can, and he just doesn't want you to be brain smart. He wants you to learn about him. And math and English and all those things, yep. So that's what, and you know that in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, I think God's talking just to you here. He says, be happy, young man, while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Because you know what? When you get old, when you all of a sudden you're 21 or 25 or whatever, you know what happens? It goes really fast. And then all of a sudden you look like me and you have all these wrinkles starting to come up. And then you know what happens? You wish you were young again like you guys. So I want you guys to just remember that, to learn all you can and to just get really close to God and learn all you can about him, because he uses you guys too. And he's going to use you a lot in the future. Okay, go ahead and have a seat. Thank you, guys. All right. That seemed kind of loud. All right, so for my friends that know this, I'm a knitter. I love to knit, and knitting is one of the things that I do a lot. And actually, if you see me at church, a lot of times recently, you've seen me carrying around this little bag because it carries my knitting. And right now, I'm making this, which is a shawl, or it will be a shawl. Wait, it's upside down. Hold on. So it goes like that.
So it'll be a shawl when I'm all done, and it's super, super soft. But the thing with knitting is that it takes time, right? And every time that I make a new project, I have to stop and think about the person I'm making the project for, because all of these yarns are different, and all of the needles are different. This set of needles is super tiny, and it's on a string or a circular needle, right? This set of needles, these are my favorite needles, I love these needles, are huge. Okay, and this set of needles, okay, technically this was supposed to be a blanket for Caitlin and Dwayne's baby. Apparently it didn't make it far, just saying, just this is as far as it got. But eventually I will finish that. But that's another set of needles, and then this set of needles is just, hold on, this side. And then this is another set of needles. And all of these needles are all different sizes, just like, you might get the point, all of us are all different sizes. We're all different people. We all have different attributes. We all have different things that we need. And I use each one of these needles and each of these different yarns for different things. This yarn that I'm using to make this shawl is quite literally baby fine. I'm not even sure you can see that. But it's super, super, super fine yarn, and it's called lace weight or finger weight yarn. This orange yarn that I'm using, which I adore, I'm making a scarf, but the scarf is for a specific person. And at this point in the game, this scarf, okay, I haven't made it far on the scarf either, but I did just start it a couple days ago. So that technically I started quite a few months ago. She was still pregnant. Just shh. Now, but I spend time thinking, this scarf is for my friend Steve, who's probably going to watch this, but he already knows because I told him about the yarn. Okay? This shawl, which I finally finished, is for my mother. The shawl took me probably 6 months to make, and it's made out of that same yarn that I'm using down there. And I made this for my mom. I spent time looking at the yarn, at the softness, at the color, and at the pattern. And sometimes the pattern determines the yarn, and sometimes the yarn determines what I'm going to do with it. That orange yarn, the only thing you can use that orange yarn for is a scarf. I mean, honestly, it's orange. No. But this finger weight yarn can be used for anything like making this lace here at the top of this shawl, or mixing in, which it is, with this linen yarn that I have mixed in with it to give it some stability. But each thing requires another piece. I have to have the right needle, the right yarn, the right pattern in order to make the right thing for the right person. Well, okay, so, and like I said, knitting takes time. And it's sometimes other things are set aside so I can knit. My bag, I love this bag, says procrastinating, not procrastination, procrastinating. Procrastinating is to defer all other activities besides knitting, which I have been known to do. Generally speaking, when I'm on a binge and want to watch Grey's Anatomy or something stupid like that. And then, because I don't want to just be idle, because I can't just sit idly, I knit while I'm watching stupid shows like Grey's Anatomy. And then I get myself hooked, and then, anyway, you guys get the point. So yarn, but each piece has to be woven together in order for it to work. Right now, this is weak. Does anybody know why this might be a weak garment at this particular stage in the game? It's still loose, right? If I pull out this needle and this needle, I'll start over. It'll take me all of like 2 hours to make that blanket. If I would just do it, I can pull it apart. And if we don't pay attention to all of the pieces in our life that are woven together, we can pull them apart. Because right now, God knits. God has knitted each one of our lives the way they are. Okay? His materials are different. His materials are us. Okay? His materials are us. And the people in our lives and the things in our lives and our families. So his materials are us. And here in a minute, if I can actually just focus for a second, I will actually be back to just yarn. There we go. So now I'm back to raw material. which is just the yarn. And each thing that we put together has raw material. And everything that we do in our lives, there's raw material, but each piece gets woven together into sort of a puzzle. He knits with love and care in his material. I already said that. Before we are born, he knows every hair on our head. He knows us. He thinks about each of us, and he gives each of us a gift and a talent and a thing that is only for us. One of my gifts is knitting. Of course, that may be, nope, it's a gift. But those gifts and talents are a direct reflection on how much he loves us, because he's thought about us and our personalities and how our gifts can be shared with others and how we can use those gifts to share his love with others. And then we also have the way he knits our lives, right? He knits our spouses, our children, and our friends. And each person he adds to our circle strengthens it. And yes, even those that have hurt us strengthen us in some way, because there's a lesson to be learned from that person. Okay, we may not have wanted the lesson. Yeah, we don't normally want the lesson. I will fully admit we don't want the lesson. But we need that lesson. We need that thing in our life so that we can move on to the next step in our life. And we can use that strength that he added with that, whatever that was that happened, and move forward. Our church is also woven. We each contribute to the whole in our own fully unique ways with all of our own gifts and talents. Audrey just did prayer for us, which is not her favorite thing to do, but it was a beautiful prayer, and it really touched my heart. Dwayne and Noelle just did praise for us. Thank you, by the way, because I can't sing, and that would be bad. Just saying. Okay. We've got Bruce, who teaches primary, and I teach juniors, and Val and Dave, who teach high school, and we've got people who do that thing, the service center. You know, so we have people here, yeah, I'll remember eventually. We have people here who each talent is added to the whole. And we need every person's talent to keep weaving together to add strength to the whole, because as a whole, as a family, we are strong. Would we all agree with that? Because if we're not a family, we can't be strong, right? So, and while we have experienced some conflict, our church never, we have experienced some conflict, and at times the strands unravel, or there's a hole, because I could miss a stitch, and then I'd have a hole in the middle of my garment. Actually, I think there's one in that shawl, but I didn't want to go backwards. But if we trust the God who wove us together and add in our own unique threads, we'll find a stronger and more loving family. But we all have to be woven together. Now, when our hearts and souls are broken, he takes the time to slowly and carefully mend us back together, individually and corporately. His love for us is unending, and he shows it in a variety of ways all day, every day. Our love is shown to him in our service and our time with him. But how often do we let our time from him be stolen away? And I think all of us have done that at different times. We let our time get stolen. Okay, so, wait, I have slides. There we go. In some ways, balancing between spending time with God and serving God, serving where God has led us, is just like making the perfect shawl. Okay, we have to have, as we spend time with him, we weave greater strength and integrity into our service. But we have to spend the time with him. We have to keep him in the mix. I can't just come to church and say, I'm worship coordinator today, and forget about God. That doesn't work that way. Or come up here and speak to you and forget about God. Weirdly enough, I'm speaking his word. I think he wants me to speak what he wants me to say. So, think about this, though. Service without love is just another chore or task to be completed. It's just something else that we have to do. And how many of us sometimes serve God out of a duty? But do we serve him out of a duty or out of love? And are we spending more time working for God than we are with God? Now, I'm going to read you a couple of verses really fast, which, yes, they worked. Okay. Luke 10:38-40 says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner that she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work and tell her to come and help me? Okay. I'm Martha. This is a given. I am definitely a Martha. I spend more time working, probably less time sitting at Jesus' feet than I need to. This sermon isn't just for you. This sermon's for me. But it's also, I've been feeling very convicted that there's some things I need to be focusing on. And so you guys are getting where my focus is obviously supposed to be. But I've also known that at times, specifically about a year ago, where I felt resentment that I was what it felt like the only one doing a lot of the work. Now, that can be work at home, serving our families. It can be work at church, doing whatever volunteer thingy we're doing. It can be work at work. I don't have a job, so it's hard for me to say that one. But it can be work like, in our jobs where we're feeling stressed or the day or the week or whatever got to us. That work is where we end up running into problems. But Martha herself spent all of her time worrying about serving God and not spending time with God. Now, hospitality in those days was huge. If someone came to your house, you were expected to wash their feet and get them clean towels. You were expected to or have your servants wash their feet, one or the other. You were expected to serve them. You were expected to give them a good meal. And it was a set thing. And if you didn't do it, you were shirking your duties. So Martha had a point. Mary was supposed to be helping with getting this stuff set up because hospitality was such a thing back then. And she was probably feeling, judging by the statement, doesn't it seem unfair to you? Well, put upon. Why am I doing all the work? Why isn't she helping? Why isn't he helping? Why isn't somebody helping me? People should be helping me. Why am I doing this by myself? But was her worry in the right place? And that's what I want you to think about. Mary, the Mary in the story, and the way our theologians, the SDA theologians think, is that this Mary is Mary Magdalene, or the Mary that was thrown at Jesus' feet to be, healed from being an unclean woman. This is also the same Mary, which Luke actually says, that cleaned Jesus' feet with her hair and perfume and tears that was on her. So she has this deep, deep love for Jesus because he has saved her. He didn't stone her, for one. That just by itself is a saving grace. But then not only just that, then he told her to go and sin no more. And she did. She left and she felt renewed and she felt fresh and she was able to go out and do these things. So then when she's washing his feet, her love is obvious. So when he's at her house, where else would she be but at his feet? Because that's where she wanted to be, right? But were they both right or were one of them wrong? Who's to know? Should Mary have helped Martha maybe a little bit? Most likely. Should Martha have spent more time with Jesus? Absolutely. So they both probably had a say in, what they should have done. Okay, so last month, ironically, it happens to be the day that I was asked to do this sermon, which is why this all goes together. That day, it was a month ago today, actually, I was worship coordinator. I, for some reason, only known to somebody who, like me, who doesn't check my own schedule, did the 6-minute social that day. And, of course, I was supposed to help teach my class, which I believe I stopped in for 2 minutes and said hello, because I didn't have time to stop that day. I have a Fitbit, which I didn't wear today, and I put my Fitbit on before I left my house that day as I was walking out my door. And then I came to church, and I did my worship duty coordinating stuff. Okay, I had to go down to the children's wing a couple times. I had to find Evan. I had to find Pastor Rick, who wanted to disappear on me or whatever. I just couldn't find the man, and I was all over the church. And by the time I walked in my door that day, I had walked 5,000 steps. For those of you that don't know how many steps that is, that's just over 2 miles at church, because I didn't walk anywhere else. I was only in this building. It's not that big, just saying. It's not that big of a building, which means I did multiple laps around this building, trying to find Pastor Rick, most likely. I could be wrong. So, but the other thing that happened that day is I missed the sermon. I didn't get a chance to sit in here for the sermon, so I didn't get fulfilled in any way from running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to find all the people I had to find to tell them all the things that were supposed to happen. On top of that, it was a busy day in general. I had to have Adam in Woodland at 2, which happens a lot, but I had to have Adam in Woodland at 2. I had stuff that I had to do at home, and by the time I got done with the day, I hadn't opened my Bible. I hadn't spent any time in the Word, or for that matter, oh no, that's not true, any time in the Word at all. And I felt like that was, I was missing something. Now, here's the thing. That's not a problem if it only happens every now and then. And it did only happen that Sabbath. It's okay to have busy Sabbaths. It's okay to be volunteering, and it's okay to be doing all that other stuff that we have to do. But when it starts to happen all the time, and we let that time from Jesus get stolen from us by allowing those distractions that Satan has put in our lives, that's a problem. So, oh, yeah, I am not, considering I was just up here asking for volunteers, absolutely not telling you not to volunteer. Nope, that is not what I'm saying. Okay? We need to make that one really clear. God's given us all talents, and he's given us all, these gifts, and he does expect us to use them. He wants us to go out and tell others about him. And to do that, we actually have to, go out and tell others about him. And you can't always go out and tell others about him from your seat right there on the pew. It's weird, but to go out and tell people about him, you have to get up from the pew and go do something else at some point. So, now we all have different mission fields. We know people that have gone on missions to other countries. Yeah, sorry, you can't pay me to do that. That's not happening. Ever. So I barely like to get on the plane to go visit my mother in Florida. So I'm fairly sure that, and I don't feel that that's where God has led me, to be honest. If he leads me there, I probably would follow reluctantly and arguing the entire way, but I would follow. But I honestly believe that my mission at this time, anyway, is here in this church, serving this family in whatever way that God has led me to serve this family. And I find different ways to do that. One of the ways I have found to serve this family is doing the sermon every now and then. One way I have found to serve this family is being the worship coordinator and making sure that it feels like the service is going smoothly and that the stage is balanced. We're not looking at the stage. I'm pretending I'm not looking at the stage. So God absolutely does want us to serve. And in serving, we are sharing his love for us so that we can, and his sacrifice with others. However we're serving. Whether I'm serving here in the church or I'm going over to, I don't know, somebody pick a country. Bolivia. What? Ethiopia. Or I don't care. Any other country but the U.S. Okay? But can you serve in the U.S. without leaving the country and not be serving in this church? Absolutely. There are homeless in this city alone that could use some service. There's people down at the center. They could use some service. There are ways to serve without actually leaving. Well, heck, you don't even have to leave Longview. So just saying. All right. Jesus answered, but the Lord said to her, "My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken from her." What did Mary discover that Martha was still searching for? What? She's spending all of her time serving God, and she's doing it out of love. She loves Jesus. She wants Jesus to have the best that there is. Her way of doing that is to spend her time making a meal and fretting over all the details. I am detail-oriented. For those of you that don't know me, okay, y'all know me. I'm detail-oriented. I like my details, and I want my details set up, thank you very much, and just do what I say when I say it, and then we are all happy. We all agree? Yeah, see, y'all agree with me. We're good. All right, apparently that's not what God wants. Yeah, okay, fine. I will stop focusing so much on the details. But this is what Mary had found. The one thing I ask of the Lord, the thing I seek the most, sorry, I got new glasses, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in the Lord's perfections and meditating in his temple. She, Mary, had learned to seek him first. He was there. She was at his feet because he was more important than the details. But our lives are all about details. How many of you have kids still living at home? Okay. How many of you have parents that you may or may not, that you want to see at least sometimes? Or that some of you take care of? How many of you have family that you're close to and that extended or close family? Or jobs? Or any other detail in your life? Or a house that you're trying to remodel? How many of you have these things in your life? And everything is about the details. We all have all these details in our life. And details get in the way. But we're supposed to seek God first. Now, Pastor Rick has been doing this amazing series on prayer, and I am not here to talk about prayer. I am kind of, but not really. Prayer is amazing, and prayer is necessary in our lives. But the thing we forget when we're talking about prayer is that it's not only prayer that we need in our lives. We also need the Word. We have to be in the Word. We need our Bibles. Okay? Evan, a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, Evan made a What is prayer if we don't know our Lord? Who are we praying to if we don't know the man we're talking to? Okay? Evan's comment a couple weeks ago said, to follow someone, we must first watch them. Not stalker-like. No stalking. Just going to say that now. But we must first watch them, and we need to know where they are going. The disciples had Jesus to watch. So my question to you is this. How do we get to know Jesus well enough to follow him when we don't have him sitting in our living rooms? What is the one place that we can go that we can learn who he is? The Word. Okay, John 1 through 5. In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. Okay, well, that's good. I'm skipping a few verses because they're about John the Baptist. They're great verses if you want to find them, but we're skipping up to 10. Okay, so John 10 through 13 says, he came into the very world he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God. They are reborn, not with a physical birth resulting from a human passion or plan, but a birth that comes from God. They are reborn. Jesus is the Word. The Word is Jesus. We do not get to know Jesus except through the Word. We don't even really truly get to know him just by coming to church on Sabbath. Pastor does a great job doing his sermons. I'm doing a sermon right now, but unless you are in the Word, you don't know the character of the man you are trying to follow. You don't know his promise. Spending time reading the Word is getting to know. I already said that. We can trust his promises. You know how I learned that? Bible study. It's weird. In a Bible study, I learned I can trust God's promises. Who knew? Oh, and trust. Okay, we've talked about this before because I mentioned this in my last sermon. Trusting God was really, really, really hard for me to do. Learning to trust God's promises was even harder for me to do. Trusting God's promises through the different Bible studies I have done took a lot of faith. But if I am praying to someone I don't trust, am I truly praying to God? Not really, right? I'm not praying to someone. I have to trust him if I'm going to be in prayer. If I'm going to be on my knees for this man, I need to trust my God to do what I am asking. Even when the answer is no. Or not yet. Or never. Well, whatever the answer is. I don't like those answers, but who does? So we have to find a balance. We have to find the balance between serving God, whether you're serving God in the church or serving God through loving your family. There are other ways to serve God. But we have to find a balance between that service and that time with God. So some Sabbaths, yes, I'm going to be busy. That's just the way it is. I'm going to be busy. And that's how I chose to do some of my Sabbaths. But that should not take away from my time in the Word, which means I have to take the time to get into the Word. I tell myself I don't have time. I am too tired. I fill my time with TV. I like my TV. Did I mention Grey's Anatomy? Okay. So, and I like my books. And I have some very spiritual books. I have some very not so spiritual books. We're not talking about those either. But I have things that I fill my time with. And Satan wants to distract us. That is what he wants to do. He wants to help us, so to speak, not find time with God. Because the less time we spend with God, the less strength our garments have with God. Okay? So Satan is trying to distract us. Now, I pray throughout my day, often while driving, which is why that one day that I was driving to and from and everywhere else and wandering all over the church, I did actually get a lot of prayer time in because I was in the car a lot. Okay? But I didn't get time in the Word. I didn't spend time studying God. So I don't know. I mean, I know what I was praying for. I may have been praying for time. I don't know. So, but I don't always take the time to get into the Word. So, and like you guys, I'm busy. I have my kids, and I'm homeschooling them, and I have school, my school, not just their school. I have my school, and I have my husband. Oh, wait, did I mention kids? Yeah, did. But I have Tim, and on top of that, we also have bills. Ugh. That adulting thing, by the way, yeah, no, kids, you don't want it, ever. Okay, so... And, so we have appointments, and I have things that I'm always busy. So what is the key here? Make an appointment with God and make it non-negotiable. So I have a friend, she's sitting over there, who gets up every morning at what time? Val? Some awful hour. Nobody should be up at that hour. But Val gets up every morning and she spends time in the Word and time doing her devotionals. Then she goes to the gym and then she goes to work. The woman is an inspiration. I don't do the gym. I do the Bible thing. I don't do the gym. But Val has scheduled this time. I have another friend who gets up at 4:30 every morning. Sorry, I'm not a morning person. But 4:30 every morning, she has 7 children, and she homeschools them. And she's a pastor's wife. And you know why she gets up at 4:30 every morning? Because it's the only time she can find to have time with God. And you know how he blesses that time? She has energy for her entire day with all 7 kids, and her youngest is 3. Her oldest is 18. So God blesses that time that we find to spend with him. So let's say that you're having a hard time finding time. Okay, buy an audio Bible and listen in your car. Or on an iPad. No, that's not the one I was looking for. Huh? iPod? I don't do anythings, so it doesn't matter. I like my Samsungs. Or on your phone. My phone has an app. There's an audio Bible that I can press play on my phone, and it will play in my car. So I'm just saying, find a way to listen to your Bible. Set a meal time. I have a friend who's a couple. Eventually I'll get it right. And every evening, right after dinner, right after they put the kids to bed, they spend time together studying the Word. And it strengthens their marriage, and it strengthens their time with God. Now, a meal. I actually do my Bible study in the morning, around 8:30-ish. Angela's usually up, but she's busy watching Gibbs. And sorry, for those of you that don't know, my daughter is addicted to NCIS. We have watched all 14 seasons 6 times. I can now recite half the words from different seasons in another room, and all I have to do is hear the music, and I know which episode it is. Okay, that's not entirely true, but you get the point. So Angela's busy watching Gibbs, and I am busy spending time in the Word while I eat my breakfast and have my morning coffee, okay? Or, SDA Church, tea. I'm having decaffeinated tea. I am so not doing that, and I'm not going to lie to you, okay? So let's see. So you have to choose and make that time non-negotiable. Do not give up your time with God for anything. The devil will try to get you to stop spending time with God. He will suddenly have some reason why you can't get up at 4:30 in the morning. Oh, wait, I can't get up at 4:30 in the morning on a good day. But there will be something that suddenly happens at that time that you have scheduled, and you just have to force your way through it. So it takes 21 days to make a habit. So if you start tomorrow and say, this is my time with God and non-negotiable, in 21 days, it will be a habit, and you will have it set, and you will do it every day. So think about that. All right. There we go. What are your motives for serving? Are you serving out of duty? Are you serving out of love? Are you serving out of self-glorification? Look what I'm doing. I am up here preaching. Really? Is that what God wants from me? Probably not. No, he definitely does not want that from me. But that's not the reason I'm serving. I'm serving my family because I love my God, and I feel God has led me to, teach. And I like to teach. And if I'm teaching from up here, or if I'm teaching with Bonnie in class, or if I'm teaching at my co-op, I'm teaching somewhere. And that's what I like to do. So is it an escape, or is it because you felt truly loved? So obviously I have times of being overcommitted, say last month, about a month ago. So, I have those days of being overcommitted. I don't know where that comes from. Most likely because I said yes to Wayne and didn't look at a schedule first, but that's probably what it was. But I also have a true passion for each area where I volunteer. My biggest passion in life is to teach. So one place I will never give up, no matter what other piece of serving I have, I will never give up teaching in Sabbath school. I love my kids. Yes, no, I do. They are 10 to 13, and 90% of the time I do love them. Okay, but they're all good kids, and I do love teaching that class. They're a lot of fun to teach. I also like to do the dramas. That's another passion of mine, because showing Christ's story through dramatic... Have you all figured out that I'm a drama queen? I'm just saying. Okay, so since we know this already, let's just go with it. And so let's use that, because God has shown me ways I can use my talents and my ability to boss you all around, and I get you on stage. I'm happy, okay? So, but here's the problem. Mary got stuck on this one. She got stuck on the details of her service and not on the reason for her service. So focus on the reason for your service. It will make your service better. Amen. Okay. This is a bad word because I'm really, really bad at it. Set some boundaries. Yeah, okay. Boundaries, those are those things that you set around yourself that you say, I'm not saying yes to anything else. And then you go and say yes to it and you jump over your own boundary. Don't do that. Set and stick to your boundaries. If you say yes all the time, oh, that's me. Okay, if I say yes all the time, then seriously stop, think, pray, and learn to say no. And actually, I told Bonnie no the other day. I was so proud of myself. So, are you asked to be on a committee? Be in a drama. Teach in the children's wing. Be in the back booth. Oh, wait, didn't I ask for all those volunteers today? Okay, so if you're asked to do all that stuff, go to God in prayer first, not last. Don't go up to Wayne and say, oh, I want to help with 6-minute social, and then all of a sudden go, oh, wait, I can't do that. Because one, you've already committed, so now you're stuck with it. You're not. Wayne had let you out, but you've committed, so you want to keep your word, and now you want to keep your word, and now you're overcommitted on a Sabbath when you really needed a time off because it'd been a month. Don't allow yourself to become so busy serving God that you do not find time for fulfillment or nourishment of your own. If you are not being nourished in the path that you have chosen, then something's wrong. You need to figure out what it is. If you're serving, like if you're with Audrey and you're serving at the service center and that is not fulfilling in some way for you, then you might be serving in the wrong spot. And that's not a bad thing. You just need to know where God is wanting you. When I was asked to become a worship coordinator 3 years ago, I actually had to give up a committee that I was on because, oh wait, no, I didn't set that boundary. My husband set that boundary. He said you have to give up a committee that you're on, so pick something. Because Did I mention I'm not good at setting my own boundaries? Yeah, I'm really bad at it. So Tim had to say, this is what you need to do, and this is what needs to happen, and I had to give up a committee because I wanted to be a worship coordinator, because I was not giving up the children's wing, and I'm certainly not giving up the journey stuff or the Christmas series or whatever we're doing anytime soon. So obviously I had to give up something. Passions and talents. This is pretty obvious. What are your passions and talents? Are you really good with maintenance? Okay, we can use maintenance people. Are you really good at teaching? We definitely can use you over in the children's wing. Are you really good with computers? Kathy is desperate for your help. Okay, so I'm just saying, we can use you. We can find you. Can you organize people? Are you able? No, already got that. Do you love kids? But that goes both ways. Do not let me. Well, did I mention I was pretty persuasive when I want to be? I think I've talked Val into a few things. So don't let me or Dan, who's even worse than I am, just saying, talk you into doing something that you are not prepared to do or do not have time to do or cannot commit to. It is okay to say no. Even when I come up and say, I could really use a worship coordinator, it is okay to say no. But this part, I'm stealing from Robots here, for any of you that know the movie. See a need, feel a need. If you see something that you don't like in the church or that's not happening the way you think it should, all right, I'm going to be really blunt here. Don't just complain about it. Find a way to help. Figure out how you can help that thing get fixed. Don't just sit back and say, oh, I don't like that. They didn't do that right. Oh, well, then obviously you know how to do it better. You can do it yourself. Okay? Sorry, that was really snarky. But you guys do get my point, right? It's okay to have a complaint about something, but if you can find a way to help, find a way to help. Because the more of you that help here in the church as well as everywhere else allows the majority that end up helping to step back a little bit and spend more time with God too. Amen. So the more people that help, the more we all get time with God. Ooh, well, there's a thought. So, all right. The saying, it takes a village, is true. God has woven us into a family, and each person in that weave adds strength and integrity to that family. So the more of us that help, the more we're woven together. The more we're woven together, the bigger the family, the better our family is, the stronger we are to withstand whatever comes our way. You know, no matter what that is. And we are a strong family. We are a strong church family, and we need to continue becoming more of a strong church family. The word is everything. The word is life, right? John 1:14 says, so the word became human. Noel, Dwayne, you guys want to come up? So the word became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son. The Word is Jesus. Jesus is the Word. If we do not spend time in the Word, we are not spending enough time with Jesus. If we're not spending time with Jesus, then we don't know him. And if we don't know him, then, we're in trouble. So I have some quick final thoughts, and I'm going to read this part. Here, you can take your scan back. Jesus has called each one of us to follow. We can't follow if we don't know him. We can't know him if we don't spend time in the Word and in prayer with him. To know him and his character is to love him. To love him is to serve him, and to serve him is to share his love with others. Each is woven together, and like the perfect garment, each stitch requires the other to work. Serving is a blessing and an honor, but don't let the details of the service of Jesus keep you from spending time with Jesus. Jesus is the Word. The Word is Jesus. Remember that.